So welcome back guys to another video, and for this video I want to talk about some of my favorite villains in video games. Now this discussion got brought up by my friend Jason on Facebook, and when he brought it up I was like, man, this would just be a great video to make. And I didn't really want to do it like a top 10. I pretty much just sat down with a piece of paper and wrote out some bad guys that just popped up in my head that I wanted to talk to you guys about. First one I want to talk about was from Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, and that is Big Boss. Now, Hideo Kojima is notorious for writing really complicated, deep, thoughtful stories to go with his games, and they're like masterpieces. And to see Naked Snake's journey to become who he is now, or who he was freaking crazy. And to meet the original Big Boss, who he took the title from, who was actually at one point his former lover, and they almost had like Obi-Wan Kenobi, Darth Vader kind of relationship, but they had a twist where the teacher actually turned on the mentor. I thought that was really cool. I didn't see it coming, and I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. And that's the thing. I think a hero is only as strong as who he's fighting against. You know, it's almost like a yin and yang. They have to coexist to exist. So it's almost like without that conflict, we wouldn't have had the Metal Gear Solid series with Snake. So wow, it was just crazy seeing all that unfold, and that's probably one of my favorite villains in that series. And I mean, I could go on and talk about Psycho Mantis, you know, Revolver Ocelot, you know, Liquid Snake, but Big Boss, the original Big Boss from Metal Gear Solid 3, definitely takes my spot for one of my favorite villains in that series. Now, RPGs have a lot of bad guys. I could always make a whole video just talking about the bad guys in RPG games, but one of them I definitely want to talk about was from Dragon Quest V, and that's Bishop Laja, or Leja, however you want to pronounce it. But this guy was freaking evil. First off, he kills the hero's father in front of his eyes, and then puts the hero in child slavery. Then, when he finally gets out of slavery and he gets a wife, he turns the wife and the hero into stone. This was not your typical average fantasy bad guy. This guy was on a mission just to mess things up. He's definitely one of my favorites. And of course, when I talk about fantasy, I have to talk about Final Fantasy. I know what you guys are thinking. And if you grew up during the PlayStation era, then yeah, you would probably think I'm going to choose Sephiroth from Final Fantasy VII. But I'm going to throw a little curveball and talk about Kefka from Final Fantasy VI, also known as Final Fantasy III if you guys are from the North American region. What made Kefka so interesting is he's almost like the Dark Knight's Joker of Final Fantasy. He's just insane. He wants to see the world burn. When you first meet him, he's just a comic relief ambassador. He's not even a threat until you leave him and you come back and find out that he poisoned the whole kingdom's water supply just because he was bored. And the thing that was really interesting about Kefka is he actually won. He actually became a god of destruction, and he left the heroes tattered and torn, the shadows of their former selves. That, to me, is a great villain. I mean, with Sephiroth, I can kind of understand why he turned to the dark side. I could understand and empathize and be kind of has some sympathy for Sephiroth. Kefka, on the other hand, that was just one evil motherfucker. And, you know, I think about some other games like Resident Evil. Mainly the first Resident Evil with Albert Wesker. I remember when I first played that game, and that plot twist to find out that Albert Wesker was actually a double agent for the Umbrella Corporation. He was the whole reason why you came to that mansion. He's the whole reason why the Bravo team became missing comrades. I was just like, man, I did not see that coming. And, you know, Albert Wesker's been throughout the series, and he's become more and more like supernatural, more of like a monster. But I really love Albert Wesker in Resident Evil 1 because he had that human kind of greed to him. You know, he was just doing it just because he wanted the money or wanted the fame. He was selling his friends out, selling his partners out, and that was really something cool in a villain kind of way. And, you know, with Resident Evil, I had to talk about Silent Hill. Of course, Silent Hill 2 has Pyramid Head, who's become almost like the unofficial Silent Hill mascot. And I feel like Pyramid Head gets thrown in Silent Hill just because he is Pyramid Head. But Pyramid Head in Silent Hill 2 had so much of a psychological meaning to it. It was a shadow of James Sutherland's past. It was something that, you know, once you learned who Pyramid Head was and what he symbolized, you could go back and play Silent Hill 2 and it felt like you were playing a game all over again. It felt like a brand new game, and that's, to me, that's something really, really cool, and that's what I really love about Pyramid Head. Not only that, but he's creepy as hell. You never know when he's coming out, and you just can't kill him. He's pretty scary. And of course, this wouldn't be one of my videos without talking about Dracula from Castlevania. Who would have thought Konami would take such a basic universal monster, throw him in a buffet through of other monsters, and make such an incredible game? But the thing about Konami is they really made their own mythology with the conflict of the Belmont clan and Dracula. It became something within its own. Castlevania's Dracula is that Dracula. You know, you can't really compare him to like Bela Lugosi or you know, some of the Hammer films or 1992's Bram Stoker's Dracula. He's a totally different entity. The only thing he really has in common is that he's a vampire and he has the name, but he is so evil, and there's so much that goes into it that I just love the series so much. I can't wait until they make the anime that they just talked about a couple of weeks ago. They talked about they were going to actually make an anime based off of Castlevania, and I cannot wait to see the Belmont's conflict with the Prince of Darkness in that version. That's going to be absolutely awesome. Oh man, also, you know, Street Fighter. You know, Street Fighter had so many villains, from M. Bison to Sagat to Vega to Balrog, but Akuma really comes to mind. I love Akuma, and the reason why I love him is because, you know, he started out as a secret in the original Street Fighter series, and it wasn't until Street Fighter Alpha that people started playing as him, and he became almost like an anti-hero. People love and hate Akuma. But if you follow the story and you understand the relationship with Akuma and Ryu and Ken's master, it becomes a whole different perspective, especially with Ryu, who wants to be an enlightened, great warrior, but Akuma is always there. That kind of makes him want to go to the other side. I think that's kind of cool. That's really, really awesome. So Akuma definitely gets one of my votes as one of my favorite villains. Now, the last one I wanted to talk about might kind of throw in a little curveball. I'm not going to talk about Bowser. I'm going to talk about Mario. Mario can be a pretty bad villain if you really think about it. I mean, I mainly think of Donkey Kong Jr. on the NES. I mean, to see Donkey Kong in that cage is definitely not wildlife certified. That's a really small cage, and to have Mario with a freaking whip, he's whipping him. He's got nowhere to go, and poor Donkey Kong Jr. just wants to save his father from this evil Italian plumber. Oh my gosh, that was something else. And of course, he's just egotistical. He's in every game. He's so conceited that he's just mean to his little brother, who is always going to be player 2. So to me, Mario could be one of my favorite villains in some aspect. If you want to go in like game theorist kind of way, he's definitely one of them. But yeah, guys, that is some of my favorite villains in video games. I know I've left so many out. But with that being said, I want you guys to leave a comment below. Tell me some of your favorite video game villains. I'd love to hear from you guys. And as always, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and as always, happy gaming. Can't get enough of XS Gaming Podcast? Be sure to check out the audio podcast on Podomatic.com, or you can also subscribe to us on iTunes. Also, if you have a YouTube channel or podcast you'd like to share, be sure to check out the XS Gaming Podcast Facebook group page and join our community. All the links are below, and as always, guys, thank you so much for all your support.